football's back, man. The NFL is back. We got the Hall of Fame game later on tonight, okay? Tell me you aren't excited about the Hall of Fame game.
I'm not.
Why?
It will be fun to see a little football on. I mean, what do you mean, why? I mean, we don't get to see Caleb Williams. That's one of the biggest issues with it's a cut down preseason anyway. We still don't get to see him. So I understand it. It's probably not worth the risk, but there's ways around that. I mean, I can't tell you how many years, if I was a starter, if there was a starter, like you'd go in, you hand the football off 2 times, maybe throw a pass, or you hand it off 3 times and then punt if you don't get the first down. I mean, you run the football. Like, that's how it is. But nowadays, rosters, they're too vulnerable. You know, some rosters are not built with the type of depth where you can afford an injury to anyone and be able to get away with it. So I'm not as excited as I used to be. I'll put it that way.
So apparently a starting quarterback has not started in the game since Teddy Bridgewater back in 2015. And I guess like some of the reasoning behind that is, well, you know, there's just not enough practices leading up into that point. So why risk sending anybody out there? Like, okay, well, then why'd you show up early? Like, it wasn't that the whole point? Like, you've got a Hall of Fame game, so they report early and get some work in. It just almost feels like, well, everybody else has done it, so we'll just follow along the same lines. Like, no starters are playing for the Bears. And I don't believe for the Texans either. So you're just going to kind of get this makeshift Hall of Fame game in which that's kind of what we got. Although I will say this, for those of you that are interested in gambling on the Hall of Fame game, no judgment here. The Bears are a 1.5-point favorite, courtesy of our friends at DraftKings. So I don't know what you do with that, but that is the report off DraftKings. The Bears are a 1.5 favorite. We are going to get to see Tyson Bagent, right? Tyson Bagent,
hell yeah,
who was already jacked last year, got more jacked in the offseason. He spoke with the media a couple of days ago and said, they asked him, you know, did it feel better knowing they weren't going to bring in any sort of veteran quarterback for the backup role and you weren't going to have to compete with a veteran? And here was his response.
You know, I didn't really think too much about it. I was too busy grinding my absolute face off in the offseason. But whatever they were going to do, you know, that's completely up to them. I can't control that.
What was the hardest grinding your face off thing that you did?
1 mile burpee broad jump. Hour and 7 minutes. Let's go.
Is that for a mile?
Burpee broad jump. Burpee broad jump. 1 mile.
How many calories did you burn out?
I don't know. I ate a lot after that. It was nice.
What did you eat afterwards? Where'd you go after that?
I went to Betty's. Shout out to Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Went to Betty's restaurant. I think I just got 6 eggs and bacon with some toast. I might not be getting better necessarily at football when I'm doing a workout like that. However, just the mental edge that it gives me, finding out, you know, what I can endure versus what the next man can endure, in a sense, gives me a little mental edge when I show up to things like this and people start complaining about our schedule. I can kind of have somewhere in the back of my head that I've done things far worse than this.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
I mean, look, I do love this guy. I loved him last year. I told you he's going to be your backup. And the only reason we're really talking about that is because we're both meatheads. But you just heard right there, okay? Because this goes back to even when I played. People, oh, you're a meathead. It's like, no, man. There's a mental workout you put yourself through when you do something that's incredibly difficult. And when you do that, you do feel like, all right, I am more mentally prepared. I'm more physically prepared for anything that's thrown my way compared to my opponents. And that's why you see guys do stuff that's not always sports specific. It doesn't always make sense to you. It makes sense to them because they feel like they're better than you. They feel like if they've got to compete against you, they've done something ridiculously hard that's going to be harder than anything you've done in your life. And that gives them a mental edge over you when things get tough. That is what that is all about, and I love it.
I just love the idea that nowadays that everything's so specialized. It's like, hey, so which quarterback coach are you working with in the offseason? He's like, offseason? What are you talking about? I'm going back to West Virginia, and I'm going to do 1 mile burpee broad jumps and just meathead it out. Like, I don't even know if he threw a ball all offseason. But and by the way, he was much better than I think a lot of people realize. They were 2-2 with him as a starter last year. He earned the right to be their backup quarterback, and so to see a meathead getting a little bit of love and going to get to take center stage in Ohio later on, that's what we need. We need
Don't
more
get me
of this.
wrong. I'll enjoy watching football again. It's just, it's a little disappointing we don't get to see the version of what this team will be if it was the regular season. Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud, what that looks like. I mean, that could have been potentially, if you really want to get into it, I guess, neither ended up getting to the playoff, but it could have been a matchup between those two. And I think those two have somewhat of a history going through some of the years as quarterbacks, coming out and all that through high school and everything else. But to your point, I mean, he played solid enough to give himself a shot at being the guy. But, because they've got Caleb Williams, they're not going to be looking at, maybe they'd look and say, hey, we want to bring in a veteran guy. But why not have a young guy you feel really good about in the locker room, a young guy who doesn't have a track record where he's going to come in and immediately challenge whoever the starter is. And that's a part of it. And there's a lot of people who hear that and go, well, that shouldn't be the case. Why should Caleb Williams not have to earn it? Why should Caleb Williams not have to go compete against a veteran guy who's been proven in this league? Well, there's truth to that, and some organizations feel like you should. And honestly, players don't care. If you're competing, you're competing. It doesn't matter who you're competing against. But there is an element of when you get into the quarterback room and everyone's been placed for what their role is during the season, sometimes the veteran guys have a harder time fitting in a little bit. Tyson Bagent, it might be a little bit easier given how he got into the league, where you can hear his attitude. He doesn't care. Just give him the football, give him a chance, his opportunity once he gets in. But if it's not going to be his chance to get, to start off, all right, I'll be the backup guy. I'll keep, preparing myself, waiting. So I think if you look at the Bears heading into this year, if you were concerned about them not having a more veteran guy behind Caleb Williams, if Caleb Williams gets hurt because he is more mobile and he is a rookie, I think they're okay. I think Tyson can go in and do a good job for him.
And also, for everybody that wants to dismiss the preseason and say there's no value, it's a waste of time, he's Exhibit A as to why there's still value, because that's where he got noticed last year, and that's why he was able to get the job and get an opportunity to where they who was the quarterback they traded away? PJ
Walker?
Yeah, they parted ways with him because of what they saw in Tyson Bagent, because of how well he played in the preseason. So right. This idea that you just get rid of it, and we're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers and whatnot talk about that back and forth with Robert Saleh, but this is why I know we're going to expand. I know we're going to lose games. You've talked about it. We're going to get to 20 games in the regular season. They're just going to wipe out the preseason altogether. It's why I still enjoy it, because there are situations like this where, look, dude, there's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL on planet Earth. There's only 32 number twos. He's one of them. And so the idea that he got an opportunity, undrafted guy who had no choice and no say in the matter as to whether or not he was going to be a meathead. His dad was an arm wrestling champion. His path was already carved out. You're going to be a meathead. What else you got? Okay, I'll just go play quarterback, play it well in the preseason, and get an opportunity the following year to back up Caleb Williams. Good for him. How much do you
love the fact that his dad was a former champion in arm wrestling?
Oh, man. It's also the fact that you see some of those videos that come out where guys will snap their arm wrestling because it's so bad for you. The torque you put on your arm, your joints, it's so awful for you. And that guy walked straight into the burning building, so to speak, every single time and said, I'm willing to do damage to a limb because I got to go make ends meet. And he did it, and he raised a son that's doing 1 mile broad jump burpees.
That's awesome, dude.
In the offseason.
Just awesome. Hey, can I give you a little tidbit or fact that you probably don't know about?
What's that?
Okay. One of the people who people should be excited about as Bears fans to watch tonight is Tory Taylor, the punter.
Oh, yeah.
Bears. That's right. You will not see better punting or not be more excited about a debut of a player, a rookie, that punts than Tory Taylor. He is, call him the punt god, whatever you want. He is fantastic. But what you probably don't know is he came up through the international player pathway. So technically, there's an exemption for these international players who make it onto an NFL roster. This started about like 7 years ago, and they could carry an extra guy into training camp. So not only is Tory Taylor a hell of a punter and going to entertain you tonight, for you Bears fans out there, and for that 91st player that's now getting a chance to be in preseason, to get some tape out there, to be on the roster, they also are provided. There's someone else who's provided an opportunity because Tory Taylor came from somewhere outside of the U.S., which is pretty cool when you think about it.